which are in your possession. As the second stage is the visit to our Parliament by officers of the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association. Statements from ministers. Honorable Minister in the Ministry of Tourism, Information, Broadcasting, Culture and Creative Industries, responsible for culture and creative industries.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, I just want to take this opportunity to really laud the efforts of our young sportsmen and women who, over the last 2 months, have made us exceedingly proud. And I say that because it's in the context of culture. If we're looking to enhance our environment as a country, if we're looking to create a vibe where our people are continuously looking to excel and achieve, I think there's no better place for us to celebrate, you know, those youngsters who've been able to go out there, make our country proud, make themselves proud, and come back and filter that excitement, you know, through the communities. So we want to laud the efforts of the youngsters who went out to represent us at the Windward Island Schools Games this year. They did exceedingly well. They won the championship. They've not won this, I think, for the last 11 years. It's the first time in 11 years that they have won the championships exclusively. They've shared championships before, but they've won this one exclusively. We also want to celebrate the achievements of our young footballers in all areas in the youth development program, particularly our under-15 team that came back here victorious in Division 2 of the NACAC, the North American and Central American Championships. And of course, importantly for us, we participated in the Pan American Games, and our youngsters did us proud. We had those who didn't win medals, but they gave best performances. But we want to recognize Laverne and also, of course, our latest medal holder at the international level, Mr. Albert Reynolds, who did a phenomenal job in throwing in record-breaking performance for him, 82.19 meters in the javelin in Peru. So we want to celebrate that. I think it's good for our country when we can have those positive vibes coming through our young people, because we know they are our future, and our thrust is to ensure that we provide the environment for them to continue to excel. So with those words, I just want to say well done to our team, St. Lucia, and of course, let's keep the culture going and keep our spirit, the spirit of our people alive.
Papers to be laid. Honorable Minister for Health and Wellness and Leader of Government Business.
Thank you, Madam President. Good morning, fellow senators and members of the House. Madam President, I beg to lay the following papers standing in my name. Statutory Instrument Number 66 of 2019, Aliens Licensing Exemption Cabot St. Lucia Inc. Order. Statutory Instrument Number 67 of 2019, External Trade Restricted Imports Amendment Order. Statutory Instrument Number 68 of 2019, Export St. Lucia Appointment of the National Export Council Amendment Order. Statutory Instrument Number 76 of 2019, Caribbean Community Skilled Nationals List of Qualifications Order. Statutory Instrument Number 77 of 2019, Caribbean Community Amendment of Schedule Order. Statutory Instrument Number 78 of 2019, Constituency Council's Appointment, Ancillary Constituency Council Order. Statutory Instrument Number 79 of 2019, Constituency Council's Appointment, Babono Constituency Council Order. Statutory Instrument Number 80 of 2019, Constituency Council's Appointment, Canaries Constituency Council Order. Statutory Instrument Number 81 of 2019, Constituency Council's Appointment, Castries Southeast Constituency Council Order. Statutory Instrument Number 82 of 2019, Constituency Council's Appointment, Castries Constituency Council Order. Statutory Instrument Number 83 of 2019, Constituency Council's appointment, Choiseul Saltibus Constituency Council Order, Statutory Instrument Number 84 of 2019, Constituency Council's appointment, Denry North Constituency Council Order, Statutory Instrument Number 85 of 2019, Constituency Council's appointment, Denry South Constituency Council Order, Statutory Instrument Number 86 of 2019, Constituency Council's appointment, Grosile Constituency Council Order, Statutory Instrument Number 87 of 2019, Constituency Council's appointment, Labrie Auger Constituency Council Order, Statutory Instrument Number 88 of 2019, Constituency Council's appointment, Mico North Constituency Council Order, Statutory Instrument Number 89 of 2019, Constituency Council's appointment, Mico South Constituency Council Order, Statutory Instrument Number 90 of 2019, Constituency Council's appointment, Soufrière Constituency Council Order, Statutory Instrument Number 91 of 2019, Price Control Amendment Number 8 Order, Statutory Instrument Number 92 of 2019, Excise Tax Amendment of Schedule 1 Number 8 Order, Statutory Instrument Number 93 of 2019, Finance Administration Act, Resolution of Parliament authorizing the Minister of Finance to borrow by means of advance, Statutory Instrument Number 94 of 2019, Finance Administration Act, Resolution of Parliament to authorize the Minister of Finance to guarantee borrowing by the St. Lucia Air and Seaports Authority to finance the Huanora International Airport redevelopment project. Statutory Instrument Number 95 of 2019, Value Added Tax, Resolution of Parliament to approve draft Value Added Tax Amendment of Schedule 3 Order, Statutory Instrument Number 96 of 2019, Customs Service Charge, Variation of Service Charge, Sunrod Properties Inc. Order, Statutory Instrument Number 97 of 2019, Shipping Load Line Regulations, Statutory Instrument Number 98 of 2019, Meteorology Amendment Regulations, Statutory Instrument Number 99 of 2019, Meteorology Fees Amendment Regulations, Statutory Instrument Number 101 of 2019, Price Control Amendment Number 9 Order, Statutory Instrument Number 102 of 2019, Excise Tax Amendment of Schedule 1 Number 9 Order, Statutory Instrument Number 103 of 2019, Value Added Tax Amendment of Schedule 3 Order, Statutory Instrument Number 104 of 2019, Telecommunications Diplomatic Mission, Exemption Embassy of the Republic of China, Taiwan Order, Statutory Instrument Number 105 of 2019, Invest St. Lucia, P.I. Balambush Vesting Order, Statutory Instrument Number 106 of 2019, Price Control Amendment Number 10 Order, Statutory Instrument Number 107 of 2019, Excise Tax Amendment of Schedule 1, Number 10 Order, Statutory Instrument Number 108 of 2019, Income Tax Exemption, Appointments, Judicial and Legal Services Commission, Statutory Instrument Number 109 of 2019, Invest St. Lucia, Bungalow Labrie Vesting Order, Statutory Instrument Number 110 of 2019, Legal Profession Eligibility, Stephen Wayne Carrington Order.
Honorable Minister in the Ministry of Tourism, Information, Broadcasting, Culture and Creative Industries, responsible for culture and creative industries.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, I wish to lay the following papers standing in my name. Statutory Instrument Number 69 of 2019, Tourism, Stimulus and Investment, Capital Limited order. Statutory instrument number 70 of 2019, Tourism Incentives, Coconut Bay Management Limited order. Statutory instrument number 71 of 2019, Tourism Incentives, Francine's Inc. order. Tourism Incentives, statutory instrument number 72 of 2019, Tourism Incentives, Charu Management Limited order. Statutory instrument number 73 of 2019, Tourism Incentives, Belgium St. Lucia Limited order. Statutory instrument number 74 of 2019, Tourism Stimulus and Investment, Belgium St. Lucia Limited order. Statutory instrument number 75 of 2019, Tourism Stimulus and Investment, Kimitrai Hotel order. Statutory instrument number 100 of 2019, Tourism Incentives, Carib Invest Capital Limited order. Thank you.
Motions. Honorable Leader of Government Business.
Madam President, I beg to move the following motion standing in my name. Whereas by Section 10(3) of the revised edition of the Laws Act Cap 107, it is provided that the Attorney General may, by order published in the Gazette, declare that a revised edition of the Laws of St. Lucia specified in the order shall come into force on such day as may be appointed by the order. And whereas by Section 104 of the revised edition of the Laws Act Cap 107, it is provided that an order in respect of a complete revised edition of the laws shall not be made until after the passing of a resolution of Parliament authorizing the making of such an order. And whereas by Section 13(5) of the revised edition of the Laws Act Cap 107, it is provided that a replacement, insertion, deletion, or amendment pursuant to that section shall have no effect unless made under and in accordance with the order of the Attorney General under Section 10(3). And whereas it is further provided by Section 13(6) of the revised edition of the Laws Act Cap 107 that a revised edition in whatever format marked with the latest revision date is deemed to be the authoritative revised edition of the laws to which Section 10(4) applies. Be it resolved that Parliament do authorize the Attorney General to make an order to declare that the 2015 supplement to the revised edition of the Laws of St. Lucia, as specified in the order, shall come into force on such date as may be appointed by such order as an authoritative version of the law. This resolution, Madam President, Parliament gives the Attorney General the legal authority to revise the laws of St. Lucia and to make all necessary orders.
Senators, the question is that Parliament do authorize the Attorney General to make an order to declare that the 2015 supplement to the revised edition of the Laws of St. Lucia, as specified in the order, shall come into force on such day as may be appointed by such order as an authoritative version of the law. Senator Ferdinand.
Thank you, Madam President. President, good morning to all our colleagues. I want to extend a special welcome back to Senator Francis, that is Senator, the Minister for National Security. Madam President, before I make us a brief contribution on this matter, I beg your leave just to extend congratulations to our athletes, our national athletes, who made us really proud in several various disciplines in the last few weeks, particularly abroad. As we have heard, they did really well at the Pan Am Games, and our superstar, Laverne, did as well again under very extreme conditions. I also want to commend the under-17 and the female footballers who did really well in Miami, and I hope that the trend continues. We also had the Windward Island School Games, and of course, as we've heard from the Minister, the St. Lucia has won after a very long time. And so all of us as St. Lucians should celebrate the success of our athletes. I also want to extend congratulations to the various sporting associations that have worked very well together with the athletes and the government to provide the support for these athletes, particularly the Swimming Association, the Athletics Association, and the St. Lucia Football Association. So I think we must never miss out on opportunities to celebrate the success of our citizens, our athletes, especially our young athletes. On that note, I want to particularly highlight a particular athlete that I know very well, went through quite a few programs that I'm aware of, part of my community. That is Zadie St. Louis. I believe that she has now moved on a scholarship, and I want to wish her well. I believe she actually won the 400 meters. She was part of the 4x4 winning team, and she also medaled in the 4x1 and the 800 meters. That's phenomenal for a young child who also plays volleyball and has had quite a few challenges becoming a successful athlete, and now she has earned the right to be on scholarship abroad. I wish her well, and I wish her family and all the other athletes who medaled and made us proud well, and I look forward to that continued success. On to the matter of the motion in front of us, Madam President. We've now come back to this House to seek to make amendments to the legislation. And essentially, the reason that the amendments had to be made was to include the names of the financial institutions and a couple other minor things that would have been needed. Madam President, I think, yes?
I hope we're on motion number 1. Are you referencing motion number 1, which is a resolution of Parliament to authorize making an order for the 2015 supplement to the revised edition of the laws?
Okay, I think I was a little bit ahead of my time, and so I would want to reserve that for the correct motion. So yes, I acknowledge that, and I think I'll take my leave at this time and come back or speak when the relevant motion is being tabled. Thank you, Madam President, for your guidance, and so I take my leave.
Senators, the question is that Parliament do authorize the Attorney General to make an order to declare that the 2015 supplement to the revised edition of the laws of St. Lucia, as specified in the order, shall come into force on such date as may be appointed by such order as an authoritative version of the law. I now put the question. As many as are of that opinion, say aye. As many as are of a contrary opinion, say no. I think the ayes have it. The ayes have it. Honorable Leader of Government Business.
Madam President, I beg to move the following motion standing in my name. Whereas it is provided under Section 41 of the Finance Administration Act, Cap 1501, that a guarantee involving a financial liability is not binding on government unless the Minister for Finance grants the guarantee in accordance with an enactment or with the prior approval of Parliament by a resolution of Parliament. And whereas it is further provided under Section 42 of the Finance Administration Act, Cap 1501, that any obligation arising from a guarantee given in accordance with Section 41 is a debt charge, and all debt charges for which the government is liable shall be charged on and paid out of the consolidated fund. And whereas the Parliament approved the guarantee of a loan in the amount of $202,500,000 from the Bank of St. Lucia Limited by the St. Lucia Air and Seaports Authority for the purpose of financing the Huanora International Airport redevelopment project under the Finance Administration Act, resolution of Parliament to authorize the Minister for Finance to guarantee borrowing by the St. Lucia Air and Seaports Authority to finance the Huanora International Airport redevelopment project, published as statutory instrument number 94 of 2019. And whereas the Minister for Finance considers it necessary to guarantee a loan in the amount of $202,500,000 for the purpose of financing the Huanora International Airport redevelopment project by the St. Lucia Air and Seaports Authority from a syndicate of banks led by the Bank of St. Lucia Limited as follows. A, Bank of St. Lucia Limited, $58,900,000. B, First National Bank St. Lucia Limited, $54,500,000. C, Grenada Cooperative Bank Limited, $40,100,000. Antigua Commercial Bank Limited, $24,500,000. E, East Caribbean Amalgamated Bank, $24,500,000. And whereas the loan is repayable over a period of 20 years, inclusive of a grace period of 5 years, on the principal payments with interest only paid, and whereas the interest is payable quarterly from the date of the initial disbursement of the loan amount, and is payable at a rate of 5.5% per annum during the grace period of 5 years, and whereas the interest is payable semi-annually at a rate of up to 5% per annum at the expiry of the grace period of 5 years, and whereas a commitment fee of 0.75% is payable on the disbursement of the loan, be it resolved that Parliament revokes the Finance Administration Act, resolution of Parliament to authorize the Minister for Finance to guarantee borrowing by the St. Lucia Air and Seaports Authority to finance the Huanora International Airport redevelopment project, published as statutory instrument number 94 of 2019. Be it further resolved that Parliament authorizes the Minister for Finance to guarantee a loan in the amount of EC $202,500,000 for the purpose of financing the Huanora International Airport redevelopment project by the St. Lucia Air and Seaports Authority from a syndicate of banks led by the Bank of St. Lucia Limited as follows. A, Bank of St. Lucia Limited, EC $58,900,000. B, First National Bank St. Lucia Limited, EC $58,500,000. C, Grenada Cooperative Bank Limited, EC $40,100,000. D, Antigua Commercial Bank Limited, EC $24,500,000. E, East Caribbean Amalgamated Bank, EC $24,500,000. Be it resolved that A, the loan is repayable over a period of 20 years, inclusive of a grace period of 5 years on the principal payments with interest only paid. B, the interest is payable quarterly from the date of the initial disbursement of the loan amount and is payable at a rate of 5.5% per annum during the grace period of 5 years. C, the interest is payable semi-annually at a rate of up to 5% per annum at the expiry of the grace period of 5 years. D, a commitment fee of 0.7% is payable on the disbursement of the loan. Madam President, this resolution is simply revoking a first resolution that was guaranteeing this loan from the Bank of St. Lucia Limited. The correction made here is simply to say that this is coming from a syndicate of banks as opposed to just Bank of St. Lucia. And the syndicate of banks are listed, all the terms and conditions are also listed, but given that, Madam President, we had already dealt with this loan itself, the correction is just to indicate that it is coming from a syndicate of banks as opposed to just the Bank of St. Lucia. And that syndicate of banks is led by the Bank of St. Lucia.
Senators, the question is that Parliament revoke the Financial Administration Act, resolution of Parliament to authorize the Minister of Finance to guarantee borrowing by the St. Lucia Air and Seaports Authority to finance the Hiwanora International Airport redevelopment project, published as statutory instrument number 94 of 2019. Be it further resolved that Parliament authorize the Minister for Finance to guarantee a loan in the amount of $202,500,000 EC dollars for the purpose of financing the Hiwanora International Airport redevelopment project by the St. Lucia Air and Seaports Authority from a syndicate of banks led by the Bank of St. Lucia Limited as follows. A. Bank of St. Lucia Limited, $58,900,000. B. First National Bank, St. Lucia Limited, $54,500,000. C. Grenada Cooperative Bank Limited, $40,100,000. And D. Antigua Commercial Bank Limited, $24,500,000. E. Eastern Caribbean Amalgamated Bank, $24,500,000. Be it further resolved that A. The loan is repayable over a period of 20 years inclusive of a grace period of 5 years on the principal payment with interest only paid. B. The interest is payable quarterly from the date of the initial disbursement of the loan amount and is payable at a rate of 5.5% per annum during the grace period of 5 years. C. The interest is payable semi-annually at a rate of up to 5% per annum at the expiry of the grace period of 5 years. D. A commitment fee of 0.75% is payable on the disbursement of the loan. Senator Ferdinand.
Thank you, Madam President. First of all, I want to ensure that we don't miss some issues, particularly regarding this motion, that appear to be trivial from the onset, but are very important and that we note. The motion before us seeks to allow the government to make necessary amendments to allow for the borrowing of $202,500,000 EC dollars. And I think based on the presentation of the motion, it is very clear what the funds are intended for. One of the arguments that is presented, and it has been presented in the House before, when the issue of borrowing of money and burdening the country with additional debt has been raised, is the argument of the government always being able to direct or to refer to a revenue stream for repayment of the debt. I think that it is a very good argument to put forward when you mention a revenue stream. But when it comes to the purpose for that, the borrowing, and the source of the revenue stream, we must be very mindful that when we identify a revenue stream, it has to really be a revenue stream that is reliable. And I know that as a science teacher, I remember we would talk about controlled and uncontrolled variables. There are certain circumstances that you can control, and you can pretty much predict what is going to happen if conditions do not change drastically. But collecting revenue that you consider is going to come from a revenue stream that you really do not have so much control over is a very risky issue. And I believe that we must accept the fact that when you put your base as a revenue stream on airport, for example, airport taxes, it is very likely, and I think there was an effort to justify or to explain that even in the midst of natural disasters and so on, that a country like ours can still recover within a very short period of time when it comes to collection of taxes at our ports. But we must not trivialize the issue. And anytime you're going to identify a revenue stream from which you intend to repay your borrowing or your taxes or your expenditure, you have to be a little more careful than to just think that everything is going to be normal and everything is going to be okay. Since we have no control over some of the external circumstances that can affect what we identify as a revenue stream, I think the government must always keep that in mind. And as long as we are going to justify borrowing by saying that we're going to have a designated revenue stream, I would want to be a little more comfortable and to see or to identify that revenue stream as one where we have a lot more control over what revenue we collect and the things that can...
Senator?
Yes, ma'am. Madam President.
It is my understanding from the leader of government business that we have already debated whether the money should be borrowed or not. So my question to you is this resolution not simply about declaring the names of the syndicate of banks? If it is, then we need to stick to, I will direct you to 37.1 and stick to the substantive motion at hand. At this point, you are rambling and entering into the realm of debate.
Noted, Madam President. And so I move on to the point that has just been raised here. The main reason, or the only reason why we are back in the House to deal with this motion is because an issue that was raised even before we had to return to the House, it was raised in the previous, the first time this motion was presented, was that we had to have named those financial institutions from which we intended to borrow. And I believe that it has a very important message for us as a parliament and as a government when we fail to take heed of the little warning signs that are raised regarding our procedures in this House. And we are here basically to retract our steps and to make sure that the motion is presented, including the names of the institutions. Right now, I think we've gotten it right, and I hope that this serves as a lesson that when we, especially the opposition, attempts to send those signals that we ought to do things right, that we take heed. And perhaps we would not have had to return to this House to make these amendments if we had actually done so in the beginning. And so while our Prime Minister may have sounded like he listened and he considered the suggestions that were made by the opposition, I believe that he really had no choice. But because we had to come back and get it right, and I hope that we have gotten it right this time. But going forward, Madam President, I believe that any time we seek to present motions in the Honorable House, or bills for that matter, and there are issues raised about the details and questions asked about whether it is presented properly, instead of being very defensive and proceeding with it and having to be doing what we're doing today, that we will take heed and ensure that we avoid those situations in the future. Having said this, Madam President, I think that I hope that the government will take heed, and especially this side of the House, and that we will not have to have a repeat of this situation in the future. Thank you, Madam President.
Senator Henry.
Thank you, Madam President, and I will stick to the advice that you have given to my colleague. However, Madam President, I just wish to note, and before I do so, let me welcome, my colleague, Senator Francis, and say good morning to everybody. Madam President, the motion starts by revoking the previous motion of of borrowing the instrument of 94, 2019. It says it revoked the Finance Administration Act that authorizes the Minister of Finance to guarantee borrowing, and went on to, with a second motion, to borrow again. Whereas one could interpret it, but Madam President, I'm not understanding that we cannot raise some of those questions, because I understand it to be a motion to guarantee, and I'm understanding that it affords us the opportunity to make clear again the point as to why we should not proceed. But Madam President, since you have indicated that, and I will also always be guided by your guidance, I will leave this as is, and to join my colleague in saying that more time, Madam President, may be spent in probably preparing and deliberating on motions, so that we can avoid finding ourselves in situations like this, because I do not feel comfortable, and the people probably may not always understand why we do what we do, because it's quite complex when you going to revoke a motion and come back with it and just add an additional paragraph outlining five banks to say that's what we're joining here to do. So I would be guided by you, and certainly I had more to say and to use the opportunity to clarify some positions we have made, but of course you've indicated we are not going to be debating why we are borrowing, and therefore I leave it as this. Thank you very much.
Honorable Leader of Government Business.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, this resolution is about informing this Honorable House of the names of the members of that syndicate. It's not about borrowing. It's about just making a correction, because, you know, we are not perfect, Madam President. We do not purport to be a government that is perfect, or an administration that is perfect, and that we will get it right every time on the first try. We try, but, you know, but we are an administration of transparency. And when we recognize that we need to explain a little bit more to the people, or bring more information to the people, we use every opportunity to do so. And this is just what this is about, Madam President. It also means that we do take heed, and we come back and we do the right thing. So if we were chastised for not being able to expose the members of the syndicate, we are doing so now. And of course, I was informed that the bank had not authorized us to do so until now. So as soon as they did, and I do not know what was behind the bank all of a sudden, giving the authorization to expose the syndicate, I must say that, of course, we are very happy that they have afforded us this privilege for us to explain and be a little bit more transparent as possible, to the people of St. Lucia, in terms of informing them who exactly is behind this loan that is being fronted by the government of St. Lucia. So, Madam President, this is all this is, and I believe that we are very clear now. Everything has been explained, and I hope that this is going to be satisfactory to the opposition as well. Thank you, Madam President.
Senators, the question is that Parliament revoke the Finance Administration Act, resolution of Parliament to authorize the Minister for Finance to guarantee borrowing by the St. Lucia Air and Seaports Authority to finance the Hiranora International Airport Redevelopment Project, published as Statutory Instrument Number 94 of 2019. Be it further resolved that Parliament authorize the Minister for Finance to guarantee a loan in the amount of $202,500,000 EC dollars for the purpose of financing the Hiwanora International Airport redevelopment project by the St. Lucia Air and Seaports Authority from a syndicate of banks led by the Bank of St. Lucia Limited as follows. A. Bank of St. Lucia Limited, $58,900,000. B. First National Bank St. Lucia Limited, $54,500,000. C. Grenada Cooperative Bank Limited, $40,100,000. D. Antigua Commercial Bank Limited, $24,500,000. E. East Caribbean Amalgamated Bank, $24,500,000. Be it further resolved that E. The loan is repayable over a period of 20 years inclusive of a grace period of 5 years on the principal payments with interest only paid. F. The interest is payable quarterly from the date of the initial disbursement of the loan amount and is payable at a rate of 5.5% per annum during the grace period of 5 years. G. The interest is payable semi-annually at a rate of up to 5% per annum at the expiry of the grace period of 5 years. And H. A commitment fee of 0.75% is payable on the disbursement of the loan. I now put the question. As many as are of that opinion, say aye. As many as are of contrary opinion, say no. I think the ayes have it. The ayes have it. Honorable Leader of Government Business.
Madam President, I beg to move the following motion standing in my name. Whereas it is provided under Section 34(2) of the Finance Administration Act, Cap 1501, that the Minister responsible for finance may, if satisfied that it is in the public interest and with the prior approval of Parliament, cause the Director of Finance and Planning to purchase shares in any public company with monies from the Consolidated Fund. And whereas the Minister for Finance is satisfied that it is in the public interest to purchase with monies from the Consolidated Fund 401,174 Republic Financial Holding Limited shares currently held by the Republic Financial Holding Limited in the East Caribbean Financial Holding Company Limited, the Bank of St. Lucia. Be it resolved that Parliament authorizes the Minister for Finance to purchase with monies from the Consolidated Fund 401,174 Republic Financial Holding Limited shares currently held by the Republic Financial Holding Limited in the East Caribbean Financial Holding Company Limited, the Bank of St. Lucia. Madam President, this resolution seeks parliamentary approval for the Government of St. Lucia to acquire 401,174 Republic Financial Holding Limited shares currently held by the East Caribbean Financial Holding Company Limited. The increase in shareholding by the Government of St. Lucia in ECFH is of strategic importance, Madam President, as it is going to increase our shareholding in ECFH to 21% and will also allow government to appoint 2 directors to the board, thus allowing us a greater contribution in the development of the bank.
Senators, the question is that Parliament authorize the Minister for Finance to purchase with monies from the Consolidated Fund 401,174 Republic Financial Holdings Limited shares currently held by the Republic Financial Holdings Limited in the East Caribbean Financial Holdings Limited Company Limited, the Bank of St. Lucia. Honorable Leader of Government Business. Is it that your light was on? I now put the question. As many as are of that opinion say aye. As many as are of a contrary opinion say no. I think the ayes have it. The ayes have it. Honorable Leader of Government Business.
Madam President, I beg to present for first reading a bill shortly entitled Gaming, Racing and Betting Amendment.
Gaming, Racing and Betting Amendments.
Honorable Leader of Government Business. Honorable Leader of Government Business.
Madam President, I beg to move for the suspension of Standing Order 49-2 to enable this bill to go through its remaining stages at this sitting.
Senators, the question is that Standing Order number 49 to be suspended in order to allow the Honorable Leader of Government Business to proceed with the remaining stages of the bill at this sitting. I now put the question. As many as are of that opinion, say aye. As many as are of a contrary opinion, say no. I think the ayes have it. The ayes have it. Leave is granted. Proceed, Honorable Leader of Government Business.
Madam President, I beg to move for the second reading a bill shortly entitled Gaming, Racing and Betting Amendment. The bill under consideration, Madam President, the Gaming, Racing and Betting Amendment Bill amends the Gaming, Racing and Betting Act, Cap 1313, the Act. Madam President, this bill should be enacted because it allows for the necessary changes to take place in the Gaming, Racing and Betting Act. In 2018, Madam President, this act was amended to change the name and included racing and betting. This amendment provides us with an opportunity to include and to make it more inclusive and more specific. There are many changes of definition as well as additions of certain words in this amendment, Madam President. For example, the bill now allows for Cabinet to revoke the appointment of a board member on just cause and not on the whims and fancies of Cabinet as obtains right now. Right? It is very explicit, Madam President. Of course, we know of our attempt to create additional employment in our country and to bring on board the DSH project, which has been much spoken of, Madam President. And this bill is going to allow us to include all the necessary provisions that we need to enable this initiative to thrive and create employment as well as entertainment for the people of St. Lucia within the context of the law. And this is why we had to bring this amendment here today, so that we can ensure that we have crossed all our T's and dotted all our I's to ensure that our people have the necessary protection that they need under the law as we introduce additional gaming, racing and betting in St. Lucia, Madam President. Of course, this bill introduces all the necessary licenses, the necessary regulations and authorities that are necessary for us to introduce the different types of gaming, racing and betting that we would want to have on our island. And basically, Madam President, it is not a new bill, it is an amendment, and of course it is very explicit in terms of what is presented here to us today.
Senators, the question is that the Gaming, Racing, and Betting Amendment Bill be read a second time. I now put the question. As many as are of that opinion say aye. Aye. As many as are of a contrary opinion say no. I think the ayes have it. The ayes have it.
An act to amend the Gaming, Racing and Betting Act, Cap 13.13.
We will take it clause by clause. Clause 2.
Interpretation.
Clause 2 stands part of the bill. Clause 3.
Amendment of Section 2.
Clause 3 stands part of the bill. Clause 4.
Amendment of Section 3.
Clause 4 stands part of the bill. Clause 5.
Amendment of heading of Part 2.
Clause 5 stands part of the bill. Clause 6.
Amendment of Section 5.
Clause 6 stands part of the bill. Clause 7.
Amendment of Section 6.
Clause 7 stands part of the bill. Clause 8.
Amendment of Section 7.
Clause 8 stands part of the bill. Clause 9.
Insertion of new sections 10A and 10B.
Clause 9 stands part of the bill. Clause 10.
Amendment of Section 11.
Clause 10 stands part of the bill. Clause 11.
Amendment of Section 11A.
Clause 11 stands part of the bill. Clause 12.
Insertion of new sections 12A and 12B.
Clause 12 stands part of the bill. Clause 13.
Amendment of heading of Part 3.
Clause 13 stands part of the bill. Clause 14.
Amendment of Section 13.
Clause 14 stands part of the bill. Clause 15.
Amendment of Section 14.
Clause 15 stands part of the bill. Clause 16.
Amendment of Section 16.
Clause 16 stands part of the bill. Clause 17.
Amendment of Section 19.
Clause 17 stands part of the bill. Clause 18.
Amendment of Section 20.
Clause 18 stands part of the bill. Clause 19.
Amendment of Section 22.
Clause 19 stands part of the bill. Clause 20.
Insertion of new Section 23A.
Clause 20 stands part of the bill. Clause 21.
Amendment of Section 25.
Clause 21 stands part of the bill. Clause 22.
Amendment of Section 28.
Clause 22 stands part of the bill. Clause 23.
Amendment of Section 29.
Clause 23 stands part of the bill. Clause 24.
Amendment of Part 4A.
Clause 24 stands part of the bill. Clause 25.
Amendment of Section 30.
Clause 25 stands part of the bill. Clause 26.
Repeal of Section 30B.
Clause 26 stands part of the bill. Clause 27.
Amendment of Section 31.
Clause 27 stands part of the bill. Clause 28.
Insertion of new Section 36A.
Clause 28 stands part of the bill. Clause 29.
Substitution of Section 47.
Clause 29 stands part of the bill. Clause 30.
Amendment of Section 40.
Clause 30 stands part of the bill. Clause 31.
Substitution of Section 44B.
Clause 31 stands part of the bill. Clause 32.
Amendment of Section 44C.
Clause 32 stands part of the bill. Clause 33.
Substitution of Section 44D.
Clause 33 stands part of the bill. Clause 34.
Amendment of Section 44E.
Clause 34 stands part of the bill. Clause 35.
Insertion of new Section 45A.
Clause 35 stands part of the bill. Clause 36.
Amendment of Section 49A.
Clause 36 stands part of the bill. Clause 37.
Insertion of new Section 50A.
Clause 37 stands part of the bill. Clause 38.
Amendment of Section 53.
Clause 38 stands part of the bill. Clause 39.
Amendment of Section 55.
Clause 39 stands part of the bill. Clause 1.
Short title.
Clause 1 stands part of the bill. Senators, the question is that the committee rise and the bill be reported. I now put the question. As many as are of that opinion say aye. As many as are of a contrary opinion say no. I think the ayes have it. The ayes have it. Senators, I beg to report that the Gaming, Racing and Betting Amendment Bill went through committee stage without amendment. Honorable Leader of Government Business.
Madam President, I beg to present for first reading a bill shortly entitled CARICOM Arrest Warrant Treaty.
Honorable Leader of Government Business.
Sorry, Madam President. Madam President, I beg to move that the report of the committee be adopted and the bill be read a third time and passed.
Senators, the question is that the report of the committee be adopted and that the Gaming, Racing and Betting Amendment Bill be read a third time and passed. I now put the question. As many as are of that opinion say aye. As many as are of a contrary opinion say no. I think the ayes have it. The ayes have it. Honorable Leader of Government Business.
Be it enacted by the Queen's Most Excellent Majesty, by and with the advice and consent of the House of Assembly and the Senate of St. Lucia, and by the authority of the same as follows. This Act may be cited as the Gaming, Racing and Betting Amendment Act 2019.
Honorable Leader of Government Business.
Thank you, Madam President. I think we are trying to race this morning. Madam President, I beg to move the first reading of a bill shortly entitled CARICOM Arrest Warrant Treaty.
CARICOM Arrest Warrant Treaty.
Honorable Leader of Government Business.
Madam President, I beg to move for the suspension of Standing Order 49-2 to enable this bill to go through its remaining stages at this sitting.
Senators, the question is that Standing Order number 49-2 be suspended in order to allow the Honorable Minister to proceed with the remaining stages of the bill at this sitting. I now put the question. As many as are of that opinion say aye. As many as are of a contrary opinion say no. I think the ayes have it. The ayes have it. Leave is granted. Proceed, Honorable Leader of Government Business.
Madam President, I beg to move the second reading of a bill shortly entitled CARICOM Arrest Warrant Treaty. The bill for consideration is the CARICOM Arrest Warrant Treaty Bill, Madam President. The purpose of the bill is to give effect to the CARICOM Arrest Warrant Treaty. Clause 1 of the bill provides the short title and Clause 2 of the bill provides for interpretation of words used in the bill. The treaty is given the force of law in St. Lucia in Clause 3 of the bill. A judge of the High Court is identified as the judicial authority for St. Lucia in Clause 4 of the bill. The Minister of National Security can designate a person or authority to be the central authority of St. Lucia under Clause 5 of the bill. A person for whom a CARICOM arrest warrant has been issued can be arrested and detained under Clause 6 of the bill and committed to custody to await surrender under Clause 7 of the bill. The procedure for surrendering the requested person is set out in Clause 8 and 9 of the bill. The schedule can be amended if required under Clause 10 of the bill, and the Minister of National Security can make regulations under Clause 11 of the bill to give effect to the bill. The CARICOM arrest warrant treaty bill, Madam President, is a requirement in CARICOM member states. This treaty has been in existence since 2008. However, St. Lucia signed on in 2017. This treaty bill provides us with cross-border protection in the region at the regional level. It is quite self-explanatory, Madam President, and the country's signatories and dates the countries signed on are all attached at the back of this bill. So, Madam President, I think it is very explanatory in itself as presented, and of course, like I said, it is a requirement.
Senators, the question is that the CARICOM arrest warrant treaty bill be read a second time. I now put the question. As many as are of that opinion say aye. As many as are of a contrary opinion say no. I think the ayes have it. The ayes have it.
An act to give effect to the CARICOM arrest warrant treaty and to provide for related matters. When we get to the clause, madam. When we get to the clause where the question it's not part of the clause. It's not part of the clause. It's not part of the clause. It's just a signature page.
Senator Henry.
There were some signatures that are left out or that are not, and I wanted an explanation as is it that they have not signed on? Because you said that they signed on, and that's all I asked. But it's applicable across even those persons who have not signed on. They are part of the treaty of this. Okay.
It's under schedule. It's under schedule. Yeah.
We'll take it clause by clause. Clause 2.
Interpretation.
Clause 2 stands part of the bill. Clause 3.
Treaty to have force of law.
Clause 3 stands part of the bill. Clause 4.
Judicial authority.
Clause 4 stands part of the bill. Clause 5.
Designation of central authority.
Clause 6. Clause 5 stands part of the bill. Clause 6.
Arrest and detention.
Clause 6 stands part of the bill. Clause 7.
Committal to custody to await surrender.
Clause 7 stands part of the bill. Clause 8.
Surrender proceedings.
Clause 8 stands part of the bill. Clause 9.
Surrender of requested person.
Clause 9 stands part of the bill. Clause 10.
Amendment of schedule.
Clause 10 stands part of the bill. Clause 11.
Regulations.
Clause 11 stands part of the bill. Senator Henry, I invite you to ask your question as it's on the schedule so that there is a recording of the answers by the committee.
The question is, my note is that Montserrat, St. Vincent and the Grenadines have not signed, and is it a case where they have Belize as well? I was asking the question as to why is it that they have not signed on. Is there any contribution from leader of government business in terms of the status of their signatory to this important piece of legislation?
Up to the point that this was drafted, these are the signatories that they had, and these were the ones that had already signed on. The countries.
So schedule.
Sections 2, 3, and 4.
Schedule stands part of the bill. Clause 1.
Short title.
Clause 1 stands part of the bill. Senators, the question is that the committee rise and the bill be reported. I now put the question. As many as are of that opinion say aye. As many as are of the contrary opinion say no. I think the ayes have it. The ayes have it. Senators, I beg to report that the CARICOM Arrest Warrant Treaty Bill went through committee stage without amendment. Honorable Leader of Government Business.
Madam President, I move that the report of the committee be adopted and the bill be read a third time and passed.
Senators, the question is that the report of the committee be adopted and that the CARICOM Arrest Warrant Treaty Bill be read a third time and passed. I now put the question. As many as are of that opinion say aye. As many as are of a contrary opinion say no. I think the ayes have it. The ayes have it. Honorable
Be it enacted by the Queen's Most Excellent Majesty, by and with the advice and consent of the House of Assembly and the Senate of St. Lucia, and by the authority of the same, as follows. This Act may be cited as the CARICOM Arrest Warrant Treaty Act 2019.
Honorable Leader of Government Business.
Madam President, I beg to present for first reading a bill shortly entitled Eastern Caribbean Supreme Court Judicial Officers' Pensions.
Eastern Caribbean Supreme Court Judicial Officers' Pensions.
Honorable Leader of Government Business.
Madam President, I beg to move for the suspension of Standing Order 49-2 to enable this bill to go through its remaining stages at this sitting.
Honorable Senators, the question is that the Standing Order number 49-2 be suspended in order to allow the Honorable Leader of Government Business to proceed with the remaining stages of the bill at this sitting. I now put the question. As many as are of that opinion say aye. As many as are of a contrary opinion say no. I think the ayes have it. The ayes have it. Leave is granted. Proceed, Honorable Leader of Government Business. Mic, please.
Madam President, I beg to move for the second reading a bill shortly entitled Eastern Caribbean Supreme Court Judicial Officers' Pensions. This bill, Madam President, is very explicit in it, as it's presented, but I will go through it because it is of so much importance to our officers, our judicial officers. When we are looking at how best we can uplift the standard of living for our public officers who serve in such high capacity, it is extremely important that we send a message out there that this bill is of extreme importance to our country. This bill for consideration, Madam President, is the Eastern Caribbean Supreme Court Judicial Officers Pensions Bill. The purpose of the bill is to provide for payment of pensions and gratuities in respect of the service of judicial officers of the Eastern Caribbean Supreme Court. Preliminary provisions are set out in clauses 1 to 4 of the bill. Clause 1 of the bill provides for the short title and commencement of the bill, and clause 2 provides for the interpretation of certain terms used in the bill. The bill applies to the judicial officers, that is, the Chief Justice, a Justice of Appeal, a High Court Judge, or a Master of the Eastern Caribbean Supreme Court, who are assigned by the Chief Justice to St. Lucia for pension purposes. And this bill is binding on the Crown. It makes provision for the pensions and gratuities payable in respect of the service of judicial officers of the court. It provides for all pensions and gratuities payable under the bill, and it would be charged on and paid out of the Consolidated Fund of St. Lucia. The bill provides the circumstances in which a pension may be granted to a judicial officer. A judicial officer is required to retire on or after attaining the mandatory retirement age, after giving the Commission at least 12 months' notice under Clause 7 of the bill, and the new rates for full and prorated pensions for judicial officers are also set out in this bill. The bill, a judicial officer may receive a reduced pension, it's stated. Payment of a pension to the spouse of a judicial officer and the payment of pensions generally are provided for in this bill. It also provides for increases in pension, Madam President. Gratuity in lieu of a pension is provided for in this bill. It provides for payment of a pension or gratuity on the death of a judicial officer, and it prohibits a pension or gratuity from being assignable or transferable. It also makes miscellaneous provisions and regulations. It makes regulations. The Eastern Caribbean Supreme Court and pensionable officers order under the Pensions Act will continue to apply to a person who is a judicial officer immediately before the coming into operation of this bill and who chooses not to be paid a pension under this bill. So sometimes, Madam President, we are concerned about, since we have a new piece of legislation, what is going to happen if something is not mentioned in that piece of legislation, and this bill also makes provision for that, where it is saying that the person can apply, this applies to a person who was a judicial officer immediately before the coming into operation of this bill, and who chooses not to be paid a pension under this bill. So it actually takes care of all eventualities, and I believe it is very, everything is included, everything that we would want to know is included, and I would urge officers of the Eastern Caribbean Supreme Court to really peruse this bill and take it to heart, because it is really providing added protection for them as far as their pensions are concerned. So, Madam President, I think it is a very good bill that adds to the security and better livelihood for our public officers.
Senators, the question is that the Eastern Caribbean Supreme Court Judicial Officers Pensions Bill be read a second time. Senator Henry.
Thank you very much, Madam President. Madam President, this bill represents a very, very important set of people in our society, and one would usually be afraid to challenge persons of that capacity. But I'm not challenging it, but I'm speaking to the issue of social justice and the issue of equity in our society. And it is a matter I wanted to raise in this parliament, the issue of minimum wage, the issue of social protection. And just coming into this chamber this morning, I was asked, should I believe that there should be a minimum wage set for one class of people and a minimum wage set for another class of persons? I said, once everybody are buying bread at the same price, then a minimum wage should be established for St. Lucians, and it should not discriminate from what you should give to a police officer or as somebody working in a farmer or whoever. Madam President, it's good that we take care of people who provide service to the state, but also important that we try to move towards a society where everybody seems looking for equality. And when the average St. Lucian need to wait until they are 65 years old to get a pension from the NIC, I do not think that some of the provisions made, both in the Act representing our judicial officers as well as ministers of government, I do not think it's the same. I do not think their spouse have some people when they pass, I do not think it is that easy under the NIC to direct for the spouse to benefit. I think it's important. I also believe, yes, I'm speaking to this, it provides me with an opportunity to look at, yes, it's here for the judicial people. And spouses there, yes. The NIC, and these people benefit from the consolidated fund. Their pensions are coming from the consolidated funds, from the taxpayers. The average St. Lucian, the pension are coming from the NIC. And how we treat resources at the NIC is important. And this is the point I'm making, that if everybody, including the judicial politicians, had to line up at the NIC for the pensions, maybe it would not be that easy to withdraw $40 million to give to somebody for constructing a golf course. Maybe. And when we have one category of persons, I know, comrade, I'm speaking on this issue, whereas on this piece of legislation, whereas we have a category of persons, upon retirement goes to the consolidated fund and can receive the pension at an earlier age than the average St. Lucian, we need to look at these things and ensure that we bring in our society to a state where we're looking at social justice and we're looking at equity. This is good for judicial people, but let us spare thought for those who go to the NIC as well. Thank you.
Senators, the question is that the Eastern Caribbean Supreme Court Judicial Officers' Pensions Bill be read a second time. I now put the question. As many as are of that opinion, say aye. As many as are of a contrary opinion, say no. I think the ayes have it. The ayes have it.
An act to provide for pensions and gratuities payable in respect of the service of judicial officers of the Eastern Caribbean Supreme Court and for related matters.
We'll take it clause by clause. Clause 2.
Interpretation.
Clause 2 stands part of the bill. Clause 3.
Application.
Clause 3 stands part of the bill. Clause 4.
Binding of the Crown.
Clause 4 stands part of the bill. Part 1, clauses 5 to 15.
Pensions and gratuities.
Part 1, clauses 5 to 15 stand part of the bill. Part 11, clauses 16 to 18.
Miscellaneous.
Part 11, clauses 16 to 18 stand part of the bill. Madam Deputy. Correction. Part 2, clauses 16 to 18.
Miscellaneous.
Part 2, 16 to 18 stand part of the bill. Clause 1.
Short title and commencement.
Clause 1 stands part of the bill. Senators, the question is that the committee rise and the bill be reported. I now put the question. As many as are of that opinion say aye. As many as are of a contrary opinion say no. I think the ayes have it. The ayes have it. Senators, I beg to report that the Eastern Caribbean Supreme Court Judicial Officers Pension Bill went through committee stage without amendment. Honorable Leader of Government Business.
Madam President, I move that the report of the committee be adopted and the bill be read a third time and passed.
Senators, the question is that the report of the committee be adopted and the Eastern Caribbean Supreme Court Judicial Officers Pensions Bill be read a third time and passed. I now put the question. As many as are of that opinion say aye. As many as are of a contrary opinion say no. I think the ayes have it. The ayes have it.
Be it enacted by the Queen's Most Excellent Majesty, by and with the advice and consent of the House of Assembly and the Senate of St. Lucia, and by the authority of the same as follows. This Act may be cited as the Eastern Caribbean Supreme Court Judicial Officers Pensions Act 2019. This Act shall come into force on a date to be fixed by the Minister by order published in the Gazette.
Honorable Leader of Government Business.
Madam President, I beg to move the first reading of a bill shortly entitled Customs Control and Management Amendment Number 2.
Customs Control and Management Amendment Number 2.
Honorable Leader of Government Business.
Madam President, I beg to move for the suspension of Standing Order Number 49-2 to allow the bill to go through its remaining stages at this sitting.
Senators, the question is that Standing Order Number 49 to be suspended in order to allow the Honorable Minister to proceed with the remaining stages of the bill at this sitting. I now put the question. As many as are of that opinion say aye. Aye. As many as are of the contrary opinion say no. I think the ayes have it. The ayes have it. Leave is granted. Proceed, Honorable Leader of Government Business.
Oops. Madam President, I beg to present for second reading of a bill shortly entitled Customs Control and Management Amendment Number 2. This is a very short bill, Madam President. The bill under consideration, of course, is the Customs Control Management Amendment. It is an amendment of an existing bill, and it amends the Customs Control and Management Act to provide definitions for words such as advanced cargo information, cargo reporter, conveyance, and impacts. It also provides for advanced passenger and cargo information and the use, sharing, and retention of advanced cargo information. This amendment will certainly strengthen our customs operations, Madam President, and provide additional security and control at our air and seaports. It is very explicit in itself, although it's short, and I present this bill to you, Madam President. Thank you.
You present it to the Senate, not to me. Senators, the question is that the Customs Control and Management Amendment number 2 bill be read a second time. I now put the question. Senator Thomas Francis.
Thank you very much, Madam President. Madam President, while I'm on my feet, I would like through you to join my other colleagues in welcoming Senator Herman Gill Francis back with us, and to say to you, sir, we missed you. I would also like to take this opportunity to congratulate our athletes who did exceptionally well at the recent games, and to say how proud I am of their achievement, and I would like to extend to them continued success in their particular fields. Madam President, as we know, laws are meant to be specific and precise to ensure that there's no ambiguity and to ensure that there's no misinterpretation. Having perused this bill, Madam President, there are some questions that I need to ask such that I can have a better understanding, and maybe there could be more clarity in terms of what some of those clauses are saying. Madam President, if we look at page 4, section 3, under conveyance, it says conveyance means a ship, aircraft, or motor vehicle. However, if we look at pages 6 and 7, bear with me, please. Subsection 6 and 7. Subsection 141C, we see here for the forfeiture of goods, a vessel, or an aircraft. And if we are saying that conveyance means a ship, aircraft, or motor vehicle, is that an error? For the forfeiture of goods, a vessel, or an aircraft? I'm just asking the question. Again, Madam President, if we look at pages 4 and 5, under section 4, 2A, 2A1, the master or commander of a vessel or aircraft, whether laden or in ballast, and a cargo reporter shall, prior to arrival, should it be and a cargo reporter, or should it be or? And a cargo reporter, or should it be or a cargo reporter? Page 5, Madam Leader of Government Business. 2A1. Let's look at page 6, Madam President, number 4. Page 6, number 4, where it says, advance cargo information must be retained for a period not exceeding 7 years from the date collected. Retained by whom? Retained by whom? Is it the control of customs? Is it, who retains the advance cargo? Under Part 1, Madam President, Part 1, where it reads, advanced cargo information. Let's look at number 10. Number 10 says, owner, name of owner of aircraft or ship. Name of owner of aircraft or ship. Sorry? Name of aircraft or ship. Most airlines are carriers. So you have Virgin Atlantic, you have American Airlines. But airlines don't really have names. So if aircrafts don't usually have names. So I am wondering whether that was an error, because how do we determine the name of a particular aircraft? I think this probably needs to be a little more specific. Pages 11 and 12.
Senator.
Sorry.
Madam Deputy. Senator Francis, in my estimation, this does not go to the substance of the bill, and I'm thinking that this should be discussed at committee stage rather than questions posed at this stage. Unless you are going into the real substance of the bill, and it seems to me that that is already done, this is just amendments and definitions, I would guide you accordingly.
Very well, Madam President. Thanks for the guidance. I'll wait till committee stage, because this is an amendment to an existing bill. My understanding is this is an amendment that would take effect such that persons dealing with customs would have to manage information in the manner prescribed in those amendments. So like I said earlier on, Madam President, I believe the intent of law is to be specific, precise, unambiguous, so the people, administering the law and the users know precisely what it is it's all about. So if you were suggesting, Madam President, that I wait till committee stage, then I will wait till committee stage and go back into the details, because I think there's some clarity that's required there. Thank you.
Senator Francis.
Thank you, Madam President. I want to thank all my fellow senators for wishing me good health. The outpouring of love and empathy was very, very well received, and I'm very appreciative of it. So thank you very much. I also, Madam President, with your indulgence, to send regards to the young police officer, Ashby, who got injured in the motor vehicle accident, I think, the day before. I can understand his situation. As a matter of fact, many years ago, as a cyclist myself, I was actually involved in an accident at that exact junction, Jamari Junction. So my injuries are not as severe as his. So I wish him well, and I hope to visit him as soon as possible. I also want to lend my voice to congratulate the youngsters who have done exceedingly proud with their achievements. I also want to laud Laverne Spencer for her continued performance on the international scene. I'm particularly happy with the youngsters who did the games in Dominica, because again that is very close to my heart. I remember at St. Mary's College taking part in Union Island School Games. Mine was held in Grenada, and it was a very long time ago that we have never actually won. So I want to congratulate them. And I think it's a very good thing that we encourage our youngsters to take part in those sporting activities. You make friends for a lifetime. I remember one of my friends was involved in the revolution, Mr. Lane, who was actually convicted and sent to prison, and now he has his law degree. But you have lasting friendships in those exercises, and I want to commend them. With regard to the bill, there are two pieces of legislation. One is called the APIS, the Advanced Passenger Information System. And as members of CARICOM, that has been in existence for a while. So a plane leaves Barbados and coming to St. Lucia, they have to send the advanced passenger list so that we can red flag whether there are any persons that are wanted or persons of interest to us. So the very same thing is happening with the cargo. We're just following through with what other CARICOM countries have done, so that before you leave, let's say Trinidad, and coming to St. Lucia, you must send us the manifest indicating to us what exactly is part of your cargo on the ship. It also enables us as a country and customs to deal with that boat much quicker. If you listen to the news up to yesterday, I was heartened that the Barbados minister indicated that our port is even much more efficient than the port in Barbados. So with that, the APIS, the ACIS, Advanced Cargo Information System, will also assist us in generating the sort of information that we need on particular individuals. Senator Francis brought up some questions that I wanted to answer, but since you have directed that we do it at committee stage, I think I will try to answer some of the questions that she has at that point in time.
Senator, I have no problem hearing your answers if they point to something more than explanation of definitions. So if there's anything else you wish to add that is outside of that, sure. Otherwise, we can do it at committee stage.
One of the issues you mentioned was 5C, where it talked about ship, boat, ship, plane, and a motor vehicle. And then she mentioned section 5C, for forfeiture of goods, a vessel or an aircraft, and the motor vehicle is missing. But I think the intention here was that we also have amphibious vehicles, and so we had to make provisions for that sort of vessel. So I think you were correct that we should have added in section 5C the vehicle also. It should be also there. So it should be a vessel, an aircraft, or a motor vehicle. Because, like I said, we have amphibious vehicles, and so you were correct in that regard. Section 6, you talked about the retention of the document. Part 10. And you asked by whom. It really is for customs. And even when you have police records and so on, your records are being kept for a particular length of time before you can expunge those convictions. So it is just for a safeguard and that for investigative purposes, and that we know for a fact that if 7 years ago that ship came and gave us a manifest of a particular amount of goods, and you're coming back about 8 years later, or 9 years, 7 years, before 7 years later, we can compare and know for your capacity and so on. All those things are important, that your ship can only carry 10 tons of goods, but 5 years later you are carrying 6 or 7 tons. Then we need to question why the difference in haulage. You also mentioned the advanced cargo information in part 1, section 10. The owner of aircraft or ship or vehicle I think we should also add the motor vehicle there. But sometimes you don't charge the vehicle. You can't charge the plane, you can't charge the vessel, you charge the owner. Although we know there's American Airlines, but American Airlines has an owner. Virgin Atlantic has an owner. So we can seize those appliances, those vehicles and conveyances, but we can't charge them. So it has to be the name of the owner that we go after. But we can seize the property until the owner is found and the owner is brought to justice. So these are some of the explanations that I wanted to give you on your questions.
Senators, the question is that the Customs Control Management Amendment Bill, Amendment Number 2 bill be read a second time. I now put the question. As many as are of that opinion, say aye. As many as are of a contrary opinion, say no. I think the ayes have it. The ayes have it.
An act to amend the Customs Control and Management Act, Cap 15.05.
So we will take it clause by clause, and where there is a discrepancy or a question to be posed, please do so. Please feel free to do so. Clause 2.
Interpretation.
Clause 2 stands part of the bill. Clause 3.
Amendment of Section 2.
Clause 3 stands part of the bill. Clause 4.
Insertion of new sections 20A and 20B.
Senator?
Thanks, Madam President. Under Section 4, 20A2, where the distance from St. Lucia, and it reads, where the distance from St. Lucia to a port of departure of a conveyance arriving in St. Lucia does not permit the master to provide the information within the time specified in Part 2 of Schedule 5, the controller A may exempt the master or commander of the vessel or aircraft from the requirements set out in that schedule, and shall establish alternative notification arrangements for the conveyance to which subsection applies. Again, Madam President, vessel or aircraft vehicle is not mentioned there. If we go on to 3, Madam President, a master or commander of a conveyance and a cargo reporter shall, prior to departure of a vessel or aircraft from St. Lucia, provide to the proper officer the cargo information set out in Part 3 of 5 and list of all passengers and crew on board the vessel or aircraft. I have no issue with that. But if we look at Section 5, Madam President, it says a master, commander, cargo reporter, or agent who fails to comply with subsections 1, 2, and 3 or 4 commits an offense and is liable on summary conviction to a fine not exceeding $10,000 or to imprisonment for a term not exceeding 2 years. But Madam President, Clause 2 ties to Clause 5. So if it is the controller who is supposed to provide the exemption, reneges on his duty to do so, is he not liable as well? I just wanted to ask that question because it's not specific there. It is saying that these other officials will be liable to fines exceeding 10,000, but it doesn't say the controller that has to facilitate them, and provide an exemption. If he fails to provide it at all, what happens in a situation where there is a discrepancy? So this is my question on this clause, Madam President. Thank you.
First, you don't have to stand at committee stage.
Madam President, I must stand? Oh, okay. Like it says, that is the manifest that you're looking for from the vessel or the aircraft. The distance has a lot to do with it. So there's an emergency from Martinique or Dominica, and by the time you get your, okay, there's an impending storm or hurricane, and you're in Dominica, but the boat has to come to get to a safe port like St. Lucia. At that time, they will not be able to do the manifest and send the requisite advance in cargo information that they need, because persons are going to be sending things to and fro and so on. So in circumstances like that, when the boat arrives in St. Lucia, then the controller of customs, based on the explanation, can then say, okay, I'm waiving that situation. But it isn't something that you would just come to St. Lucia and not inform the custom controller. It has to be some extenuating circumstances that you are allowed to do this. So, like I said, and the leader of opposition business will tell you that sometimes you need goods in a country where it has been devastated by a hurricane, and you're going in there. So what we are sending, we can't give you the manifest so that when you get to Dominica, that the custom controller will tell you, well, I want to find out how many bags of flour, how many bags of sugar, and so on. So he gives you an exemption in that situation. But ordinarily, it wouldn't happen. The custom controller would charge you for not advancing. So that is the long and short of it. Because if the haul is from the United States of America, it will take 4 hours to get here. So we can get the advance passenger or advance cargo information that is required.
Thank you. But Madam President, I think the point is missed. Under 5, non-compliance with clauses 1, 2, 3, and 4 carries a heavy fine for those officials mentioned there. But clause 2 requires the intervention of the controller of customs to ensure that those officers under 5 comply. So I am asking, why is it, to me there seems to be a bit of unfairness that if customs do not facilitate them on time for them to comply with all these clauses, then they get the fine, but the controller is absolved. That's just, it's just an observation, Madam President.
Madam Deputy.
Madam President.
Just a second, Senator. Senator Francis.
Yes, thank you, Madam President. I think the Honourable Senator is making a mistake there. Because at the end of the day, the controller of customs works for the government of St. Lucia. There is the staff orders and regulations that if he doesn't perform his duty as he's supposed to do, then action can be taken against him there. So the act will not specifically relate to him per se. Other action can be taken against him for not doing that. I don't know if you want me to give an example. All right.
Clause 4 stands part of the bill. Clause 4. Clause 4. We were discussing clause 4. And Senator raised her points and they were answered. So I'm going back. Clause 4.
Insertion of new sections 20A and 20B.
So clause 4 stands part of the bill. Clause 5.
Substitution of section 141.
Clause 5 stands part of the bill. Clause 6.
Insertion of new schedule 5.
Clause 6 stands part of the bill. Clause 1.
Short title.
Clause 1 stands part of the bill. Senators, the question is that the committee rise and the bill be reported. I now put the question. As many as are of that opinion, say aye. As many as are of a contrary opinion, say no. I think the ayes have it. The ayes have it. Senators, I beg to report that the Customs Control and Management Amendment Number 2 bill went through committee stage without amendment. Honorable Leader of Government Business.
Madam President, I move that the report of the committee be adopted and the bill be read a third time and passed.
Senators, the question is that the report of the committee be adopted and that the Customs Control and Management Amendment Number 2 bill be read a third time and passed. I now put the question. As many as are of that opinion, say aye. As many as are of a contrary opinion, say no. I think the ayes have it. The ayes have it.
Be it enacted by the Queen's Most Excellent Majesty, by and with the advice and consent of the House of Assembly and the Senate of St. Lucia, and by the authority of the same as follows. This Act may be cited as the Customs Control and Management Amendment Number 2 Act 2019.
Honorable Leader of Government Business.
Madam President, I move that the Senate stand adjourned, signed and die.
Senators, the question is that this House do stand adjourned, sine die. I now put the question. As many as are of that opinion, say aye. As many as are of a contrary opinion, say no. I think the ayes have it. The ayes have it. Sitting adjourned.
Well, we've just had the adjournment of today's sitting of the Upper House, the St. Lucia Senate, sign and die. To give you a quick recap of the proceedings today, where we had present in the chamber members of the Senate from the government side, Francisco Jean-Pierre Mary Isaacs, who is also the leader of government business in the Senate, Senator Timothy Mangal, Senator the Honorable Herman Gill Francis, Minister for National Security, the Honorable Senator the Honorable Fortuna Belrose, with responsibility certainly for culture and creative industries, and we also had the President of the Senate, as you just saw, leave the Senate, Janine Girodi McIntyre, and the members of the Senate from the opposition, the benches, Joachim Henry, Gideon Ferdinand, and Jerome Gideon, and independent senator today, Mauricia Thomas. There was an explanation for the absence of Dr. Adrian Oje, who was said to be out of state. Well, the day's proceedings began when the President gave a report from the Speaker of the House of Assembly following a meeting of the lower house on Tuesday. Then there were statements by ministers, culture and creative industries. Minister Fortuna Belrose spoke on the success of the St. Lucian sporting personalities of late, Grand Island School Games, number of footballers who did well at regional engagements, and also the gold medal achievement once more by Laverne Spencer at the Pan American Games, and the first time bronze medalist Albert Reynolds in the javelin event. Number of papers were laid by the Honorable Mary Isaacs, leader of government business, and the Minister for Culture and Creative Industries, Senator the Honorable Fortuna Belrose, also presented some papers. Motions were laid also this morning by the leader of government business, including the revision of laws of St. Lucia, the authority to give the Attorney General to do so, and the authorization for the Minister of Finance to guarantee a loan to fund the Huronoro International Airport redevelopment project. There's also the revocation of the provisions of the motion of the Financial Administrative Act, Administration Act, an amendment to include a syndicate of banks. There's also the purchase of shares, 401,174 shares in Republic Financial Holding Limited, currently held by the East Caribbean Financial Holding. And then we saw the presentation of bills by the Leader of Government Business, Senator the Honorable Mary Isaac. These bills were presented for first reading, and I can tell you that the bills presented, all four, got the suspension of 49.2 to allow for the remaining stages to go through at this sitting, and they included the Gaming, Racing and Betting Amendment, also the CARICOM Arrest Warranty Treaty, the Eastern Caribbean Supreme Court, Judicial Officers' Pensions, and finally we had the Customs Control and Management Amendment number 2, and all of these bills went through the sitting. As we said, they went to committee stage without amendment. The bills are to be reported and to be read a third time and pass. So this has brought us to the end of the sitting of the St. Lucia Senate, and it has been adjourned sine die. So on behalf of all of us here, the Government Information Service and the National Television Network, I'm Ryan O'Brien saying goodbye from Parliament Building.